Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mega Man here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of the Mega Man Marathon. So we remember yesterday how the fact that recently Sonic the Hedgehog has recently finished up with Mega Man 2 for the NES or Nintendo Entertainment System, released in 1988. So even though he did have a very good time on that game, well, despite the stupid turd boss, which he always despised the most, and even though that at the same time that he did have a very decent time, unlike the likes of the frustration of Mega Man 1, which Mario did recently finish that game until the very beginning of August this year. So this time around though, today was actually forms of the 5th of August, and today, Daffy Duck is the only one who's going to be doing the next Mega Man games in the lineup. Mega Man 3, released in 1990, also came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, as far as for short anyway. And this time around though, as far as the future Mega Man games, as far as this is concerned, with games length this time around, it'll go a little bit more longer this time around, because not only because we're going to be doing the exact same thing, like fight all 8 of those Robot Masters again, but this time around though, there's going to be expansive upon it. So even then though, that you guys will find out as soon as when Daffy Duck managed to able to tackle through Mega Man 3. So with that being said though, there's not much else I could really think about for this entirety of this particular point for today. Obviously we still only got about 2 months left also, so that way we can get ourselves Mega Man 11 for the very first time for basically for the public, for people, and you get the idea for the solutions right there. So even though we've only done 2 games, so even though we've only got about like, let's just say 9 more games to go before the actual marathon finish. So without further ado, let's go with Mega Man 3 for the NES. On to you, Mr. Daffy Duck. Dang, this music is very memorable to listen to, especially noticeable with that Mega Man title screens like this. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Daffy Duck here once again, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of the forms of the Mega Man Marathon. This time around though, we're now going to be tackling through the 3rd entry in the series of the classical Mega Man. We're now going to be tackling through Mega Man 3 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Originally came out in 1990 for, for the NES. So, obviously, much like how it does it by the forms of Mega Man 2, we're still able to retain ourselves 8 Robot Masters by the forms of different names this time around. We have Sparkman, Snake Man, Needle Man, Heart Man, Top Man, Gemini Man, Magnet Man, and Shadow Man. So even though these are very cleverly named though with these particular Robot Masters themselves. And as you can see right there in the center of the screen, there's no Dr. Wily symbol on there, because even then it's been replaced as the forms of the Mega Man's face usually just moves his eyes all over the place every time you're trying to select which Robot Master stage you want to go to. So even then though, let's get started right here by the forms of Snake Man. So even then though, again, if you ever played Mega Man 1 and especially Mega Man 2, you know exactly how this game plays out. It plays exactly like how it does in the previous 2 games. But in addition to able to actually make it an exact same game as of how it does in Mega Man 2, most likely because of how the fact that they did manage to improve upon everything in Mega Man 1, we also get ourselves new additions to the table, which I might as well get into that specific topic as soon as we're able to actually just trying to explore for more of those robot masters themselves. So even though that again, once again, there are 8 of them in total, just like how it does in new forms of Mega Man 2, but except the fact that, well, we'll get to that point at short noticing. So even then though, I feel like most of the levels in this game could go a little bit more longer this time around, especially noticeable when we get to a new type of levels like this, when we actually get into the, at the very ending portion of the game, which even then, especially if you want to able to discover secrets and stuff like that, most notably by the forms of the returning 1-ups, in addition to the E-Tanks makes a return, which we'll come across into those until we get to the next couple of stages up ahead. But, everything else in Mega Man 3 plays exactly like how it does it from its predecessor years. So even then though, like graphics and especially with the soundtrack, looks very identical. But here's something new to the table what Mega Man managed to pull off, and that's the forms of the sliding ability. Every time you actually try to use the directional pad down, and able to actually press the jump button at the same time, then you can actually perform yourselves a sliding technique. So that means you can actually just slide through gaps, slide through a certain amount of enemies, and everything else all it counts for, really. So even though it just makes the game a whole lot easier than the likes of both Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2 for a small extent. But that's only because of how the fact that with the Mega Man's new ability, then you can able to actually just manage to deal out with bypassing those enemies with no problems. Even then though, that could be some conception. So my first experience with the forms of Mega Man 3 is around the same time as Mega Man 1 and 2 that I've managed to first time experiencing this game thanks to Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console version, just like the other 2 games, and especially noticeable before we get to Mega Man 4 and Mega Man 5 especially as well, but not so much for Mega Man 6 or 7, because even then though I haven't got those 2 back in the day, because those 2 games never saw light of day on the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console version, but it did on the other hand though for, let's just say both the 3DS Virtual Console version, to be more specifically the new Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console, because the new 3DS console only plays the Super Nintendo games on that specific model of the system, including the likes of Nintendo 2DS XL every nowadays. And also you can now actually play Mega Man 6 and 7 originally now by the forms of the Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console eShop download. So that should be pretty worth mentioning for this throughout. So yeah, you guys should know the drill right here. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this for the most part though, so Although one thing I have to admit though right away, with these cloud platforms, I did have a hard time whenever the first time I played this stage on my own time, because for some reason, every time when I was trying to stand completely still and hopefully trying to, God forbid, trying to land on that specific cloud platform, but then the game tells me that I was going to be able to glitch up, or in this case, just trying to push through for that part, and as a result, it did knock me off the pits, even though that can get pretty obnoxious every once in a while. So here we go with the first robot master in Mega Man 3. This is the forms of Snake Man. So yeah, he loves to shoot out those specific projectiles. These are known as search snakes. Even then though that he occasionally wanders around every single time, every now and then though. I can definitely see why a lot of people seem to go after Snake Man first, because even then though, well, we'll get to the forms of the next level after that, which is the forms of Gemini Man stage, but even then, we'll get to that certain point. So even then, it's not that bad of a level actually, because even then, as I mentioned to you before, with the Mega Man's mobility, that you can able to actually slide through enemies and stuff like that, it makes it an incredibly easy journey compared to the likes of Mega Man 1 and especially Mega Man 2, because in the, well, I don't know about you, but anyways, once you hit him enough times with the Mega Buster, then there you go. That concludes Snake Man. So again, I do apologize if I speak a little bit too rubbish at the moment, just only because of how the fact there's not much else I can really say about Mega Man 3 aside from there are some new tools to play around with. So even then though, here we go, there's the first weapon in Mega Man 3, we have Search Snakes. Even then though, this could be certainly be really useful, especially noticeable when it forms of when we get to the next level in the game. Let's just head into Gemini Man stage. So even then though, they could be summarized as like a crystallized level layout. Like, assuming that's what they usually as far as we'll go for that anyway. But we'll check that out as soon as we're able to see how this will turn out. I really love the actual skies and stars in the background right there. It's very detailed by the looks of all that. It follows the exact same way for how it does in Mega Man 2, and in fact, speaking of such, this game takes place after the events of Mega Man 2, by the way, because in fact, Dr. Wily is not going to be in the good, is not going to be on the bad side this time. Instead, he's going to be on the good side for at least for once. Well, until for later on though, as it is. But for now, he's going to be in a good side for now on though, able to actually take over by the forms of, or trying to, like, apologize to Dr. Light, and considerably how the fact that, well, we're not going to let Dr. Wily manage to able to do his no goods again. So even then, if he does, then I'm going to be able to actually just trying to deal like a, oh Jesus, like Bowser all over again, or Dr. Eggman of all things. Go and think about it though, is the fact that between Sonic the Hedgehog, and especially noticeable with Mega Man, they both on a somewhat of a similarities as the forms of the villains side of things, because, well, obviously from Sonic the Hedgehog universe we have the evil genius scientist, we have Dr. Eggman, and then in this particular Mega Man franchise, to be more accurately, the classic Mega Man games. Who the hell was that? Oh gee, thanks for your help, stranger. The reason why I say stranger is because, well, we'll never know exactly who he is, though, until we actually get into the later stages in the game, because from now on, though, I'm actually going to be discussing upon the similarities between Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man at the same time, when it comes to villain scenarios. So, because of that, though, in the Mega Man Classic universe, it has Dr. Wily that is going to be taking over the world and trying to use every single robot masters to be able to actually build this side of things, and that's all the similarities ends, so... Anyways though, we got ourselves an extra 1-up, which once again gives you an extra 1-up as it is. Oh, another one! Oh, jeez, man. Again, much like how it does in Mega Man 2, the extra lives, and especially the E-tanks especially, are very generous in this game, especially too. Because, you know these E-tanks from the previous game, Mega Man 2, that you can only carry up to 4 of them back in the day, back in Mega Man 2. But now this time around though, in this game, in addition to the future games in the series, well, you can now able to simply pick up 9 of them instead of like 4 in the previous game. So, that's a pretty massive improvement over the likes of how it does in Mega Man 2, from sure aside from that. But even then, we'll get to the more details about Mega Man 3 until we're able to actually get into the actual side of things for that department. So, and also there's something new to the table. We have ourselves the Rush. Basically, Rush, as far as the actual companion goes, is basically a dog robot, or in this case, a robot dog. And he will be becomes very handy, especially noticeable when we get to like this particular game's later levels, and especially noticeable with Mega Man 4, 5, 6, and even especially 7, and even especially noticeable with Mega Man 9 and 10, because when we get to Mega Man 8, well, things can get a little bit more of a mixed bag of all things, because even then, considering that Blossom will actually get into Mega Man 8 after Mega Man 7, because even then, as far as I can definitely tell for that department also, is the fact that between the future Mega Man games, these games are going to be a lot more longer than the likes of Mega Man 1 and especially Mega Man 2. Most notably because of how the fact that, well, there's going to be bringing out to ourselves even more stages to the table. In addition to those kinds of stuff, we also managed to come across into more of those, well, some of these scenarios where we might actually come towards with it by itself. So even then, that can get a little bit more of a ease to the eye, so even then though, yeah. So yeah, I really love the Rush Coil, by the way, because even then, what the Rush Coil can do is the fact that I think of like the springs from the Sonic the Hedgehog games, but except the fact that you can only use it at least quite frequently. So even then though, if you manage to use that, then you would able to actually let, you know, Rush decide to able to actually let the spring for you, and you can able to bounce on him, and then boom, you can actually launch up in the air. So that's very good stuff altogether. So even then, again, it comes in very, very handy in the later trickiest sections. So I really hate those dragonflies for some reason, because they always come out of nowhere, and if you probably do not aim yourselves just right, if you want to able to dodge those little idiots as far as the actual dragonfly enemies are concerned, well, much like how it does in Mega Man 1 and 2, you get a summons from knockback occurrence again, which even then I was like, oh, for God's sakes, why are we going back onto the knockback occurrence again? Oh, jeez. It's just around in the 90s, or even the old school games every nowadays, always have a knockback occurrence every time you actually get into these tricky situations like this, but that's just how it is when it comes to video game logic aside from that, but that's just how I think. So anyways though, let's move on to the Gemini Man boss. So his weakness is actually forms of surge snakes. Even then though, as soon as you're able to actually aim enough hits from Gemini Man, and boom, he's down. And luckily enough, I managed to survive for almost 2 units of health left. Jeez, what is this like, Mega Man 1 or Mega Man 2 all over again, when it comes to able to survive for a little bit of health left while dealing with the Robot Masters themselves, so that's very convenient. So anyways though, we got ourselves a Gemini Laser, which can be slightly helpful in some episodes, but we'll get to more details as soon as we get to the next level, which I'm presuming we're actually going to be heading to next is Needle Man. And also, not to mention about this also, is the fact that not to mention that since this game is going to be twice as long as the forms of any other Mega Man games at this rate, most notably Mega Man 1 and 2, this means I might as well able to actually upload these videos in a little bit more longer length, just because of how the fact that, well, obviously this game is going to be a lot more longer than Mega Man 1 and 2 as of now, but until Mega Man 4, 5, and 6, and especially 7 and 8, that, and even especially noticeable with the forms of Mega Man and Bass especially, because Mega Man and Bass allows you to be able to actually pick through 2 different characters, each with its different perspective, which I will admit though right away, because that can happen though. I hate to tell you about that, Buttercup, because even then you might not gonna like it, because even then that game was hard as Christ. Or in this case, huge crisis, because even then, I heard from a lot of YouTubers out there, they always get a lot of frustrating moments in the forms of Mega Man and Bass itself, so yeah, let's not get into more details about that game, well, after finishing up with Mega Man 8, because, well, it just happens. So there's not much else I can really say about this for the most part though, other than that Sonic has forgot to mention about the forms of the new Nintendo stuff that has been recently announced, about the fact that there's actually going to be a Gamescom 2018, which even then, they're actually going to be announcing something a little bit new to the table with the forms of Gamescom 2018, like the forms of, well, they're still going to show off Super Smash Bros. Ultimate to see what there's going to be some new features here and there, or possibly some more footage based off from E3 2018, and also the very first time playable debuted in the forms of the Super Mario Party playable for public players. So yeah, we don't have to worry about the forms of how the fact that what I found is kind of odd is the fact that between Mario Party Star Rush, which did happen in 2 years ago actually at this point in time, since in E3 2016. And Super Mario Party did recently announced during the likes of E3 this year. It's kind of odd. They always attempt to able to actually just showcase off those 2 games only exclusive on Treehouse Live, whilst in the forms of the Gamescom, while most of the players or even the gamers out there now can finally experience in the actual games themselves, in the actual fully playable demos, which is kind of odd admittedly though, but hey, at least I'm still excited for it. But even then, can't wait to see how the online mode is going to be played out though, but I've definitely noticed that it's going to be minigames only, so even then no, it doesn't bother me about it too much. Sorry for a little bit of a tongue twisting in the end folks, I really do must confess right about now, so I really do apologize for that. So anyways folks, here's the Needle Man here, and his weakness is actually forms of Gemini Laser, which I will admit though, Gemini Laser is not that great of a weapon honestly, because it always just goes like, every time you actually shoot the Gemini Laser, it always just bounces all over the place with every single walls, ceilings, or even floors especially. And you can't able to use 2 shots at it, so you only have to shoot only just once of it though, which admittedly though, it's not as great, but it can be good in some scenarios, most notably in the forms of Needle Man's weakness. And speaking of such, here's Needle Cannon. And we got ourselves a Rush Jet, which appears to be another Rush Dog weapons as far as that's been concerned of. But we're probably not going to get into that just yet though, because we're now going to be moving on to Top Man. Excuse me, I've got something in my throat there, so I must confess I do apologize for that. Man, I really do love the environment of the actual game itself. It still looks very colorful and vibrant, just like how it does in Mega Man 2. And just like in the forms of Mega Man 2, that's how the fact that the score system is a little bit more edited than last time, or in this case, has been once again been absent. So even though, no, let's just not get into the actual score system right about now, because, well, this game plays almost exactly like Mega Man 2, with, you know, just with new different movesets, and even especially noticeable with the different copy or different robot master abilities. So even though everything is all accounted for the most part, so... Anyway, so let's climb down here to, yeah, there's no point for getting those little health parts at the moment, so there's no need for able to go after those, so... Other than these little, screws right there, they're most able to disrupt me as soon as I'm able to get knocked back, trying to able to get hit by these spikes down there, which is not gonna happen. Anyways, so... let's just go ahead and use, you know what, I'm actually going to be using the Rush, yeah, let's use Rush Jet, just to see how this demonstrates. If you manage to use the Rush Jet, before when it gets to Mega Man 4 and 5, and even especially 6, especially, and even, I'm assuming 7 also, you can actually manage to change directions with the Rush Jet, which I think is actually very handy in this game in particular, because even then, not only do you able to actually maneuver around all over the place, but also how the fact of the matter is though, is it's really easy to able to actually bypass certain obstacles, most notably by the forms of these really annoying disappearing blocks, which we'll get to that sooner or later, because even then, you know exactly what I was going to be saying for that much until right about now. But anyways though, we got this robot cat right over there, which is kind of odd a little bit, but at least it's pretty easy to defeat, because especially noticeable if you have like huge shots at him, so there goes that. And as soon as we actually think we're going to be moving on, well, then we got ourselves these particular enemies over there, which can be very easy to kill. And as soon as we're able to defeat the robot cat from before, well, we have to deal with another one. So even then, though, that's, well, it's pretty easy for the most part, though, if you know what you're doing to able to actually dodge those bullet wall here. And especially noticeable with the forms of, you know, you get the idea. Oh yeah, we got these guys makes a return ever since Mega Man 2, but they aren't in a pain in the bum in the backside this time around, unlike any forms of Mega Man 2, which I'm really glad that maybe seems the case. But hey, at least as far as you will go for that point. So anyways, let's get rid of these little spinny tops right there, just in case if we... Oh, another extra one up. Jeez, I'm getting pretty lucky when it comes to like... You know the random pickup items I was going to be on about? That once again, much like how it does in Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2, that sometimes it gives you health, and often to rare occasions that it gives you extra 1-ups. So, yeah, how about that then, huh? And it seems so far I did not die in this game so far, though. Well, it wasn't until when we get to a later portion of the game, regrettably. So let's move on to the Top Man boss fight. So, this is by far the easiest robot master boss battle in the entirety of this game, because all he does, he just constantly spamming those little spinny tops, and then after once in a while, he'll actually spin around and just trying to get to the other side, and yeah, he's just a piece of cake, even with the Mega Buster itself. So there we go, I'm not even kidding, that's all he does. And beyond that, we managed to get ourselves the actual weapon for, you know, Top Man, which is probably the most useless weapons, I might as well say this much until now, and that's the forms of Top Spin. We'll get to that more details onto that as soon as we get into the next level in this particular Robot Master's selection of stages, and it looks like we've only at the halfway point of it right about now. So let's go ahead and move on to the Shadow Man, which appears to be somewhat of a ninja vibe. So we'll take him down no problem, assuming it all depends on skills and all that stuff. Okay then, so let's get this thing going. So hopefully everything else checks out there. Thankfully though, I don't have as much frustration as far as the actual game itself so far, because thanks to the improved movesets for Mega Man, even especially noticeable, well, before we get to Mega Man 4 and 5, that we're actually going to be bringing out something to... Whoa, what's that noise again? Oh my god, it's this guy again! Which, from the actual Wikipedia standpoint, or even especially what this robot is known for, this guy was actually known as Break Man, which all he does, he just jumps around all over the place, and he just occasionally shoots, which, the best strategy for this particular mini fighter of all things is just to constantly shoot him from the back. So you can then know that if you want to join along with him, then you can able to actually kick his butt in during no time. So yeah, he's not that much of a challenge, honestly, because even then that's all he really does. So anyways though, so let's go ahead and use ourselves the Rush Jet right here, so that way we could able to actually easily skip almost the entirety of the portion of the level itself, as you can see right there. And I think this is actually very, very handy, because as soon as I have mentioned about this before, well, until we get to the next couple of stages up ahead, most notably by the forms of, you know, Spark Man, Heart Man, and especially noticeable with the forms of Magnet Man. Well, you will get the suggestions about these little parts and stuff like that until later on, so... Excuse me about that, sorry about that. Anyways though, yeah, because today was actually forms of the 5th of August today, so again, we've only just barely got started with August at this rate. So even though there's not much else I can really say about this for the most part though, other than being like, I'm really looking forward until the likes of Super Mario Party gets its new footage of it and stuff like that, thanks to Gamescom. But I think Gamescom 2018 is going to be once again taking place in German, just like how it does in 2016. And even I'm pursuing 2017 as well. I'm not too sure on that because even then, it's been a long while since I actually looked up on 2017 rendition of Gamescom. So yeah, that makes it very superficial anyway. So. Anyways, now let's use Rush Jet again, so that we can able to ignore this section entirely. And what makes it a little bit useful also is the fact that if you keep on jumping off of his back, then you probably do not drain as many of his gauge off. So even then though, I suggest you do that if there are some occasions that you might as well able to actually use that technique. So I'm afraid we're gonna have to waste that Rush Jet for now because we're pretty much at the very end. Although, gotta think about it though, I think I might should take myself my death here because I'm probably not gonna deal with Shadow Man with just this amount of health. So yeah, for the most part though, I might as well take my first death of the playthrough, just like how it does in the previous Mega Man games. I know, kind of convenience though, and at the same time I don't have that enough of those energy tanks or E-tanks at the moment, so oh well, no big deal, but even then we'll have to accept this factor. So anyways then, Shadow Man. I believe his weakness is actually forms of, well, as you expected, top spin. And by the way, with the top spin, as I mentioned earlier, this is probably the most useless weapon in the entirety of Mega Man 3. Just because of how the fact that, well, you only have to use it when if you get close to the actual enemy, or these boss battles occasionally, which even then, or the actual Robot Master itself, which is very, very horrendous if you ask me. I mean, it's not that too great either, not to mention with the forms of how the fact that, well, I don't know. So here we go with Shadow Blade. In addition to that, we also got ourselves the final Rush part, and that's the forms of Rush Marine, which we'll get to that until we get to the future points of the game, not to mention with that specific throughout. So yeah, you get the suggestions. So now let's move on to Spark Man. So even though we've only got 3 more Robot Masters left before we're able to actually do something a little bit more different to the table. Well, not until we actually finish up with those stages, regrettably. So anyways, folks, here's the Sparkman's level. It's basically a technology-based level, because we're going to be inside in this database, or even in this case, for this matter, electronic environment. So there's not much else we could really ask for anyway, especially noticeable how the fact that it's very... It kind of reminds me of almost very similar design as far as Elecman stage from Mega Man 1. But except it usually takes place in this electronic technology vibe, because, you know, you got these electrical plugs, electrical sockets, and basically a lot of electronic around here. So yeah, it's almost exactly like Elecman stage from Mega Man 1, but except, well, a little bit more colorful and vibrant, and especially a lot more flashier than the likes of how it does in Mega Man 1, because, you know, for most of the enemies themselves, even the Robot Masters themselves, they always becomes like an somewhat of an animated vibe to it. So even then, that's very obvious. Be very careful right there, because again, spikes will instantly kills Mega Man also, because even then, just like before, that if you get touched by spikes, then you would obviously go and lose your life. And same applies for bottomless pits here and there as well, which again, you need to be very careful with bottomless pits, especially noticeable how irritating a knockback occurrence will usually exist in once again. But still, I can really exist that enough for the forms of the knockback situations in these games like this nowadays. Let's go ahead and use Rush Coil very quickly, just in case I need to get myself my health pickup right here, and also some weapon, weapon energy also. So yeah, that's what I can really think about for the time. So let's switch back into its normal self. So I really do apologize if I was going a little bit quiet recently, especially noticeable how the fact that, well, I just don't know what it is, to be honest, but even then, that's all I can really say about this though. Anyways though, I really do love the actual Sparkman's theme, by the way, because it's all catchy and almost vibrant as well. Oh yeah, with the actual improved control in the forms of Mega Man 3, it almost feels almost exactly like Mega Man 2, but, you know, unlike the likes of any forms of Mega Man 1, it doesn't feel nearly as heavy as the forms of the first game though, so... And by the way, if you're having a hard time with this particular section, then, you know, by all means, you can actually use the Rush Jet, so... Yeah, honestly, I think the Rush, Dog Robot is actually a very, really great introduction to the forms of the classic Mega Man games as far as this point in time. Even especially noticeable how useful it was. Even especially noticeable with, Rush Jet, or even especially Rush Coil, which even then that can give you a lot of goodies and all that stuff if you manage to discover some certain secrets. Here we go, folks, on to Sparkman. See, Veneno, his weakness is actually forms of the Shadow Blade, just like any forms of the Metal Blade from Mega Man 2, because you can able to actually aim it in multitude of directions. So, yeah, that's what I've got. There's not much else I can really say about this this particular Sparkman, folks, because, well, he's pathetically easy if you manage to use the Shadow Blade. So there we go, we've got ourselves the Spark Shark, which even then, this could be very handy because we'll get to the next level in the game, which we might actually get into, Magnet Man. And we'll save Heart Man for last, because, well, you can definitely tell why we're going to be doing for that particular method here. Alright, here we go, onto the Magnet Man level. It's basically somewhat of a scrap metal environment level like this. So, yeah, everything else is made out of metal. So, by the way, with these magnetic enemies over there, they can sometimes help you trying to go over the pit below, or sometimes it doesn't help you at all because you might accidentally run into them. So, oh, we actually come across into this another Breakman sequence. Okay, sounds convenient there. And he behaves exactly like how it does in the forms of Shadow Man stage. Well, even I know that, well, it's pathetically easy, not that much of a challenge. You can also just slide underneath him if you can't afford to get hit. So, I suggest you do that because if you want to keep your health alive, must be sure you need to able to actually slide in some occasional moments if he decides to go to the other side. So, that's one thing I should probably point out for this hint, by the way. So, yeah, as far as we'll go. Anyways, though. Alright, so we got ourselves these little, I will say, though, these enemies can get pretty irritating every once in a while. To me, though, anyway, because they always come out of nowhere sometimes. And even especially noticeable how the fact that they always are trying to hit me so goddamn hard. Even especially noticeable when I did not pay attention to this particular stuff like this. So, I guess we'll have to find ourselves... Oh, some more health there. Ah, I didn't reach that high enough. Well, good thing is, since they have the fact that this game introduces to ourselves the Rush Coil, or even Rush Jet, and I did not mean to do that. Yeah, seriously, don't try to use the Rush Coil or the Rush Jet whenever you're trying to go next to the ladder, because it'll just make it incredibly useless or wasted. So, there we go. At least we got some bit of health though, so... But yeah, as you can see with these disappearing blocks, make a return ever since Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2. If you're having a hard time with them, then, you know, just use the Rush Jet. See, for now, if you're having a hard time, then, yeah, you can able to use that. But don't use it all the time, though, because, again, much like how it does it by the forms of Item 1 and Item 2, and even Item 3 as a result. In fact, I should probably point things out right away, is the fact that the Rush Coil, and especially noticeable with the forms of, Rush Jet are very similar to the likes of Item 1, Item 2, and Item 3 from the likes of Mega Man 2. However, though, I will admit, though, I really love Rush Coil and Rush Jet a lot more than the likes of, well, Item 1 and Item 2, because even then, despite they were not cleverly named back then, but at least they have some very unique names in this game in particular, even for the future Mega Man games as a result of that when we get to Mega Man 4 and 5, and then especially number 6 and 7, because it will actually introduce something a hell lot more. But even then, we'll get to that point instantly when both Twilight Sparkle and Rarity can able to actually tackle for Mega Man 6 and 7. By the way, this something is also a bit of a proof over the likes of Mega Man 1 and 2, is the fact that the screen translation between different segments are actually loaded up quite faster this time around, which even then though, that can get a lot more potentials going, because even then though, that it can load up so much this time around, which even then I'm really happy about that, because even then, sometimes it can be a little bit of a pace breaker every time whenever it goes like a slow loading sequences like this. But apart from that though, it's not that bad this time around though, I will admit though right away. So there we go folks, on to the Magnet Man, which his weakness is actually forms of, you know, the Spark Shark, or, you know, Shark. And I accidentally died for this guy because, well, the thing is with the Robot Masters sometimes is the fact that they move way too often. So even then though, I'm also able to actually be extremely cautious next time around though, so I must confess that was my mistake. So anyways, let's try that again, and hopefully we'll do this in a better attempt this time around though. Let's just hoping if that's it. So again, his weakness is actually forms of the, you know, Spark Sharks. So even then though, or Shark rather, sorry. And basically, all you do is just do that, and booyah, there he goes. And once again, I've managed to able to survive the actual Robot Master battle, while simply just able to get myself a teeny tiny bit of health left. Well, nothing matters anyway though, because much like in the other two games, every time you complete the level, your health will be regenerated completely, so that's usually all that matters. Magnet Missile, so even then though, I think Magnet Missile will actually be the most useful weapon as well, but even then though, let's get into the forms of Heartman right about now, so even then though, we can able to actually finish up with the Robot Masters themselves. So this won't be that very long though, until we actually get into the, well, the second half of the game, which even then though that, especially noticeable with the future Mega Man games entirely though, but even then though, we'll find out until that time period as far as we'll go. And until for the likes of Mega Man 7 and 8, they're expecting these games can get a hell of a lot more longer, so yeah, I do apologize if my dialogue for this point, folks, is actually gone a little bit corny recently, because first of all, my throat is actually got a little bit dried up again, and second of all, is the fact that there's not much else I can talk about for this point, so anyways though, let's go ahead and just get ourselves a little bit of health from this particular health capsule here, and we can quickly escape from these little munchers here, and let's use the rush coil so that we can able to actually use that. And boing, there we go. And let's switch back to Mecha Buster, so that way we can deal out with this little jerk off here. Although I haven't really deal out with him though, so I'm also able to skip him for the time being. So, anyways, let's move on. Oh, here's this monkey enemy. In fact, it does remind me of almost very similar to how it does in Woodman stage for Mega Man 2, except the fact that you can't able to deal with them unless if you can't able to deal with the Mega Buster, even though you can't jump higher enough either. So what I'm gonna do here is the fact that I'm also able to use my Magnet Missile. So that way, Magnet Missile is actually also a very useful item, because even then, or the useful weapon, because not only because it usually manages to able to do like a struck or punch or anything, and because of that though, it can also hold me onto enemies directly. So it's kind of like how it does in the Mario Kart games, like the forms of the blue shells for that department, but except, well, this was not a racing game, it's just a platformer 2D, you know, gun and shooting type of jumping game or anything like that, so that's just how it is, that's how I think about it. So, although unfortunately though, I've almost running out of my Magnet Missile, because the next boss fight we're going to be hit into at this point, even the Robot Master or the final Robot Master before we get into something completely different to the table, we might actually going to be able to actually regenerate our Magnet Missile weapon. So even then though, if we manage able to refill that up, then, well, we could get able to, oh, I must be able to get myself my E-Tank right here. After dealing with this particular enemy first, that's the only reason. There we go, and there we go, we got E-Tank. So, I think I should probably able to actually go ahead and, I'm probably not gonna heal myself just yet though, until we get to the very end of the stage. So, anyways though, oh yeah, we got ourselves these particular bee robot enemies, by the way, because even then, it kind of feels a bit similar to how it does it in one of those levels in the forms of Digging It, but in forms of Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. It's the fact that one of the more annoying enemies about this level though is the fact that there's going to be a really jam-packed with bees, which even then though, they can always directly home in on me, which even then though, I'm not a big fan of those bees. But anyways though, and let's see what's in here. I believe we got ourselves a familiar sound again, and yes, believe it or not, we got Breakman for a third time. Well, for this matter, for a fourth time, and this might actually be the third time we're going to be fighting against with him. This might be a lot harder this time around though with this Breakman fight, because as you can see, we're actually going to be going onto this curve arena. But the thing is with the curve arenas is the fact that it can really disrupt your jump platforming segments every once in a while. But as long as you're able to get enough hits on Breakman, then you would able to actually deal with them no problem. So that's all that really matters for that anyway. So before we get to face off against with Hardman, doesn't contain any of those weapon energy. Fine, I'll just do it without it. So with that being said, let's move on to Hardman. So his weakness is actually forms of magnet missile, but unfortunately I don't have that enough of those magnet missile energy, so I'll might as well able to do with the Mega Buster from now on though. But we'll do the last few hits with the magnet missile, so even then I might as well able to do just that. So you occasionally able to actually keep on doing this brutal knuckle fist attack whenever he's trying to do like 2 at the time, and then it actually reflected back. And then he occasionally managed to able to do this little ground pound technique, which can be able to be stun Mega Man entirely if you do manage to jump at the right time at this right point, and then you would able to actually just manage to avoid his attacks. So anyways, let's go ahead and use the magnet missile and jump at the right time, and just one more hit, and there we go. Not that bad of the Robot Master itself. It's just the fact that you need to be very cautious with the actual ground pound ability that he's trying to perform. So there he goes. And that's we actually got ourselves the final weapon in new forms of Mega Man 3. We got ourselves Hard Knuckle. And we'll get to more details about the Hard Knuckle until we actually get into a later portion of the game, because after when you dished out 8 Robot Masters, we get... what the hell? What's that all about then, huh? But let's just wait until the next video though. So join me next time on Let's Play Mega Man 3. It's the fact that we're gonna be finding out what these strange robots is all about then, huh? Like between Spark Man, Needle Man, Gemini Man, and Shadow Man stages, which means we have to revisit those stages again. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.